What is something weird your body does, but you haven't told anyone about because you know it's not normal? I have this sensation like sand flowing down the back of my head sometimes. It's quite weird. I get it too. I had someone tell me it's spinal fluid draining or something like that. I'm not entirely sure if they knew what they were talking about though. Come get yo spine juice. I didn't know how to explain it for the longest time. But it's apparently the tensor tympani muscle contracting when you close your eyes really hard and squeeze, which causes a rumbling noise. If I press the left side of the tip of my nose, the cartilage will often click into place and hold that depressed position until I flare my nostrils and it pops back to normal. Whoa, interesting. Do you have a hard time breathing through your nose regularly? Nope. The cartilage only depresses slightly and only when I press in that exact spot on the left side of the tip of my nose. Not sure if this is normal or not, but sometimes everything in my ears goes kind of fuzzy and I start hearing a high-pitched ringing noise. Usually only lasts for a few seconds and I don't think it's bad or anything though. This probably isn't tinnitus. It's almost certainly a reaction to pressure systems coming through. My wife and I both get this before storms and the like. But anytime there's a pressure increase, even going up a really big hill can trigger something similar. This is the correct answer. Everyone's saying tinnitus is wrong, because that by definition requires it to be a semi-permanent state of ringing. These little pressure wave pops describe ops issue a lot better. Ever been in an empty room and you get this really weird feeling, as if you are super small and everything is massive? Question mark? Really strange feeling I would get. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this same feeling. Sounds like Alice in Wonderland syndrome maybe? This is what I was going to say. My son had it pretty frequently as a kid. He used to describe seeing stuff that sounded like he was on an acid trip. The doorknob looks huge, but it also looks far away. I get what's called brain zapping, where you feel a burst of electricity go through your mind as you're trying to sleep at night. Mostly happens when stressed. Muscle spasms that occur in some parts of the body such as the legs. Edit. Pretty sure it's exploding head syndrome from what people have commented. A quick electrical current that travels around my brain within a split second. Makes a kind of zinging sound then disappears after my brain is jolted awake again. Another comment mentioned the correct name for it though. Edit 2. Just saying I'm not a doctor of any kind lol. When this happens I just let the moment pee but and I eventually fall asleep as usual. It's not a serious condition. Just something that happens every once in a while and it can be scary. I got brain zaps from 3 withdrawal. However what you're describing sounds like exploding head syndrome. Last time I had it, I thought the heating blanket had zapped me because I drooled lol. I was on a high dose 3 for about a year and a half when my insurance suddenly dropped it completely and I only had around 3 pills left. I ended up having to try to wean myself off. But 3 years later, and I'll still suddenly get brain zaps or random memory issues that I've never had before stopping them. I can pop my ankle bone on command when I do this weird circular movement. Only on my right ankle. It's not the ankle, it's the tendons. If it's not grinding or hurting, if it does that CGP, it's the fluid associated with the tendons filling back in, and the expansion/contraction of the tendon. I get this with many joints, from my ankles to knees, to shoulders, and even occasionally my elbows. I can do it with my elbows by straightening my arms and twisting my hands inwards. Can usually do it about once an hour, more if doing a lot of physical activity. Also neck, ankles and occasionally knees. I shake when I'm talking about a topic I find exciting. This is why I'm usually not very chatty. AWW, this one is actually very cute. It's like your excitement is radiating off of you. Yeah, I remember I was speaking to a girl in work about a game I like, and she said OMG you love that game so much you're all excited, and I screamed a little bit XD. I get so embarrassed about it, but she was so cool about it. I'm always in some sort of pain. It's not a normal pain. My body doesn't rest when I sleep, and as a result I always experience muscle fatigue. Fibromyalgia. Sounds like my life. It's less like proper pain, and more like a faint you can never ignore me fatigue. The kind of shit that makes you occasionally just want to let your arms rest at your side. I did tell some people in my family, but I have always randomly gotten this stinging pain inside the left side of my chest at random times. Whenever I breathed it hurt more the deeper I breathed in. But once I breathed in a certain amount, I would be fine until I breathed deeper than the last breath. It rarely happens and has never lasted more than 5 minutes. It's strange. Precordial catch. I have this exact thing too and have been wondering what it was for little years. Thank you so much. I can make myself wheeze by twisting my torso to the left or right. It's like I partially crush my lungs or something. I get this, but it's not like a wheezing, where I feel air come out. It's almost like a grinding noise that could be mistaken for wheezing. Like it only happens when I open my mouth with my airways open, as if I'm taking in a breath, but I'm holding my breath. Then I turn my torso, and I clearly hear this grinding/breathing noise. It's really weird. I always assumed it was my spine sliding around, and I was hearing the noise from that amplified by my open chest and mouth. Like a speaker. Sometimes I get a random stabbing pain up my vagina/gooch. Just one, then gone. I call that pain vagina angina. What a wonderful phrase. When I get negative emotions, my skin feels itchy and burns a bit. For example, if I feel disillusion, this happens. And if the feeling is intense, so the sensation of the skin. Alright, so this happens to me as well. It began a few years ago. Or at least I noticed it a few years ago, and I could never figure out why my skin would feel itchy and burn. Usually happened if my heart rate increased and my pores opened up a bit to begin the sweating process. Always happened if I was running or I encountered any situation that caused an increased heart rate, physically or emotionally. Turns out I'm allergic to laundry detergent. Try switching detergents. I found this out after getting into bed one night after washing my sheets. Use scentless and dye-free detergents and see what happens. If I put my finger in my belly button, I can feel it in my vagina. I had to have umbilical surgery a few years ago. Whatever connection that used to be there must have gotten disconnected because I don't get that same sensation anymore. Also, I once got hit on by a guy who offered to tickle my belly button from the inside. Took me a beat or two before I figured it out. Some days ya gotta roll em to me. How the hell does anything think that the line will work outside an orgy or a gay hookup app? Very rarely I will bend over in a certain way and feel something slide over the top of my last rib on my left side. Generally it slides right back as I stand up straight again and doesn't cause me any pain. I guess it could be a muscle or something. I'm not so sure. I used to have something like this happen. I have no clue what it is, and I haven't had it happen for a while. Just haven't bent that weirdly for a bit, I guess, but this is very familiar sounding. Sometimes when I sneeze while sitting down, I get a sharp pain in what I can only venture to guess is my ovaries. It's not every time, but it concerns me whenever it does happen. Sounds like your stomach muscles. Could be a hernia. I had a hernia. It felt like I was being ripped apart. In the hospital to have it fixed, they kept asking me what we were doing that day. I'm assuming to make sure I know, and not because they didn't. I just kept telling them we were sewing up my hole. Uncontrolled muscle twitches and spasms. Sometimes weird. Sometimes scary. I thought it was normal. It happens to me, mostly, when I'm going to sleep. I can hear my spine crunching just under my skull when I turn my head. Me too. Like a crinkling sound. I physically cringe and cannot stand when someone folds construction paper around me. I feel it through my entire body and I hate it so much. I feel this way with certain fabrics. The noise sends horrible shivers up and down my body. This also happens to me when hearing someone touching the fabric or touching it myself too. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable and makes me shiver. Sometimes when I walk my knee just doesn't align properly or something, and it'll take a weird wobbly step where my leg bends funky. Also sometimes my eyes will rapidly jitter back and forth for like half a second and it's like a mini seizure. The eye thing sounds like nystagmus. I used to have auditory hallucinations when going to sleep in my teens. Sounded like a crowd of people talking, like a party, and then occasionally a loud shout which I sometimes heard as my name. I never heard what they were actually talking about though. 10 years ago I got hit by a car and my neck still creaks. Just as I'm falling asleep I get a massive explosion in my head. A huge white light and noise, all in my head. Over in a flashbang. I have no idea what it is. Sounds like exploding head syndrome, worth googling. I get it every once in a while, but not really an explosion as such. Most often a large bang and I think someone is trying to break down my front door. Yep, that's it. It took me 23 years to figure out the weird circles I see sometimes are called life floaters and not hallucinations. I haven't looked at the specifics though, because I'm scared of it not matching up. Oh, they are floaters. Sometimes I used to look up into the sky and I always wondered why there's this blackish transparent dot or two floating around. And they look squiggly sometimes, but then they start to move and interlock and multiply and you just get confused, right? Is it just me or everyone can blur their vision like cameras before they're focused? I can do that too. Isn't that just playing with the focus of our eyes by squeezing the eye muscles or relaxing the eye muscles? I can do this thing with any body part when I'm stationary where it's almost like channeling energy into it or activating the nerves. It's really weird to explain, but for example it's easiest in my legs. I can trigger it, and I go dizzy and my legs just go warm and fuzzy with sensations. Like static I guess in a way. If I had to explain it, I can't do it for too long, because I feel like I'll pee butt out. I've seen only 1 or 2 forum posts across the internet about others who are able to do the same thing. Never known what it is. I don't do it often, but anytime I wish to I can trigger it, as if it's a natural ability / action. Holy shit, I finally found you. So, do you also feel it in your groins, shoulders and legs? It's kind of like a sneezing sensation, right? Like a tension, and then you can relax it? Yep, exactly. Seems we are not alone and many resonate with this. I'm physically incapable of burping, regardless of how much I eat. Me too. Or, at least, I used to be unable to burp. It was terrible. I couldn't drink carbonated drinks. Any gas that built up in my stomach caused terrible pain. I would have to stick my finger down my throat to throw up the gas in order to relieve the pressure. Always had excessive flatulence and bloating. Finally, after college one day I decided I'm a human person made with the same muscles and structures as everyone else. I sat up in front of a mirror and tried activating every muscle I could in an effort to try to open up enough to let out a burp. I made some ridiculous faces, I'm sure. But after about a month of daily practice I was finally able to do it! Exclamation mark. I actually went through a really obnoxious phase after that where I drink soda just to burp / belch, because I was so happy that I could finally do it. I get these weird spasms from time to time. I'll be going along and suddenly be like shit, I'm having a heart attack, but it's just my body being odd. Like heart palpitations? Hopefully not. It doesn't bother me at all, so I often don't think about it unless I put my hand there. But there's like an indent in my leg a bit above my right knee. IDK what it is, but it's almost like a little crevice. The weird thing is, it's not always there. Sometimes I'll just be sitting on the toilet and notice, oh, the indent's back. Weird. Apostrophe. I have an issue with a muscle in my knee that moves out of place. This might be something similar where it pops out / in when you move it a certain way. Sometimes at random times I would just smell some smell that would take me back to my childhood days. Then I walk around trying to find the smell, but I just never do. Do you also have certain memories attached to certain tastes / scents? I remember once, when I was a kid, I stayed up all night playing Mario 64 while eating Lifesavers candies. Now, anytime I replay that game, I can faintly taste those Lifesavers. When I sleep on my stomach my feet go straight up, bent at the knees. If you try to push them down they are either stiff or pushed down, but spring back up. Every time I've ever slept someplace new I get the same comments about my legs doing this weird stuff. You just made me imagine Willie Coyote faceplanting after falling off a cliff. Sometimes, though it doesn't happen often, my senses get overloaded and my mind can't cope with it. Sounds seem really loud and unrecognizable. I have to go someplace quiet and focus to stop it. Sensory overload. Pretty much every autistic or ADHD person gets this, so we all know exactly what you mean. Although you don't have to be ASD or ADHD to experience it. I get sensory overload a lot, like multiple times a week. It's not fun. I get a weird shock/uncontrollable urge to immediately sit upright if I've been laying flat on my back for too long. I've tried googling every way I can think to phrase the issue I'm having, and I can't find anything. Maybe an unusual presentation of restless legs syndrome? For me, it's an uncontrollable urge to move my legs when I lie down at night. Sometimes it feels less specific, just an urge to get up and move around. Sometimes when I'm about to fall asleep I get this really weird feeling like I'm falling, and I can't stop. Like adrenaline rush. Grab at something to stop me falling. It will last a second. It'll go back to just lying there wondering what the hell happened. It's a muscle twitch. Look up Hypnic Jerk. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.